Okay, welcome back to our TouchDesigner tutorial. We are going to work on with some painting exercise. So I create my project folder. And the first one we're going to do is the painting by using the mouse. So I use painting mouse as the project name. Okay, so as usual, I remove all the unnecessary objects first. So the first one we're going to do will be again the video device in. So I would like to paint the live image from the webcam, and then I'll flip it for a mirror image in the X direction. And in order to achieve the painting effect, what we are going to do is we need to sample the RGB, that's the color information from this image. What we are going to do is we make use of the chop. So we convert the top TOP to chops by using this one. And then we can have a look of them. So we are not using alpha, so I remove the alpha channel, just keep the RGB. And in the cropping we need to make some change, for example. And in the original design of that one, the default one is cropping by row, that is cropping one row of the pixel. So you have this kind of moving RGB curves. And for the painting we're going to do, we want to just pick up one single pixel. So we will crop by using a pixel. And in order to obtain the pixel, we need to specify the UV coordinate, where U will be 0 to 1 horizontally, and then V will be like vertically 0 to 1. So we can keep, for example, U 0.5, V 0.5. There will be somewhere in the middle of the screen that the changing value of the RGB when I move in front of the camera. So the next one will be how we are going to pick up those UV value. And there are two options in this series. So the first option is, as I mentioned, I'm using the mouse at the painting tool. So in this case it's interactive, so we make use of the mouse input, that is mouse in. So the mouse in actually gives you two values, tx and ty, that is the xy value coordinate of the mouse. And if we would like to use the normalized value, that is between -1 to 1 for both tx and ty, we need to choose the output as normalized instead of normalized respect to the aspect ratio. Once we have this one, and then we need to relate them together. So now we have mouse x and y changing from -1 to +1, but the UV value that we're going to use will be like along this slider 0 to 1 and also 0 to 1. So in that case we need to have a mask for the conversion. So the input range from range will be -1 to 1, and then output range will be 0 to 1 with positive value. And then I use a null and to give it a name, so that would be used for the color pixel. Okay, and the next step we are going to do will be try to connect it over here, which is this two value. It's pretty straightforward. We put the tx to the U value, and then export the chop, and TY to the V value, and then export the chop. So now when I move around my mouse across the screen, the RGB value changed. And what exactly is the value is picked up? So we are going to convert it into real color in visual form. So what I want to do is I use top, or you can use scenic graphics. I try to use the rectangle first, and I make it a little bit smaller, and then change the aspect ratio and also the resolution to the standard one we use, 1280 by 720. So now we have this rectangle. You can consider this is a paintbrush, that when I move my mouse, I want to move this paintbrush around with certain color. So the color we're going to use will be from this RGB value. And for the rectangle, you can also change the fill color by putting fill values around here. So that is exactly what we would like to do. So we drag the red to red, the first value, and then the green to the second value, the B to the third value. So when I move around my mouse, actually I'm picking the color of that particular pixel, which is kind of beneath my mouse pointer. And to make it a little bit more easy to see, we can do the fill screen with the value. So I connect this to the output window first. So when I move around my mouse, actually this one turns into the color pixel. That is depicts the color that's picked up under the mouse from the video device in, that's the webcam image. Okay, the next step, or actually the remaining step, is how can we make this square or rectangle move according to my mouse position. So in that case, we can look into the range of number that we want to have. So for the mouse is -1 to 1, but for that rectangle to change different position, so we are going to connect it to a transform. Then instead we turn on the view for the transform, the display button, and then try to move that one around by changing the translate. So if I type -0.5, actually this one go to the left margin, and then +0.5, it go to the right margin. So we more or less conclude this one like center will be on the center of the screen, -0.5, +0.5 along the two margin, which is also valid for the Y dimension. Okay, so with this knowledge, so we can add another mask for the mouse. And with the from range, again -1 to 1, but the to range will be -0.5 to +0.5 in order to pick up the position of this rectangle. And we can connect this to a node name, for example, like position, and then turn on viewer active, and to drag these two numbers to the translate. 1 for the X, the other for the Y. So when you move around your mouse, so you start to notice the changes in the position of your square, and which will be a bit more easy to note of the relation in the full screen mode. So that is what you expect to see around here. Okay, so the next step is when we are moving around with the mouse on top of my own image, that is the video image. So there's only one single square appear, and how can we accumulate the path of the movement and then to have the effect of painting? So that one will be a feedback. So you can do it yourself, or you can use the palette browser with the image filter or feedback. That's the banana here, and we can then put it in between. And also remember, for the feedback, we can also turn this opacity into 1 in order to have the full location of this. So we are going to have this one, and I would like to make it a little bit bigger, such that you do not need to draw too much on the screen. So the effect will be something like this. And if you have the patience, you can fill in all the black area with your color pixel, and eventually you can create a rendering of your own portrait in front of your webcam. So that is the effect of this painting exercise. Okay. And one more step. And what happens if I want to clear the screen and then to do without the former painting that left over by the mouse? So for the feedback, actually, if you take a look, and there's a button called reset. So when you click on that one, that will reset the canvas, you can say. And for that one, we can make use of a keyboard device, a keyboard in, and then I'm using the key number 1, and then we connect it with our logic, and then in the pre-operation we detect only the rising edge. So in this case, when you press, you kind of generating a button click to the feedback. So we are ready to drag this one to the reset button and export the chart. So every time you click or you press the 1 key, you clear up your painting in this case. So that is more or less what we have achieved by using the mouse as a painting device. I can reset, and then you have this again. Now this is the painting process. And some of you may ask whether we might have other form of the paintbrush rather than a square. So of course you can use all the primitive shape that you have from the TOP. And I try to have one more demonstration before we conclude this exercise. Is if you are not using a rectangle, for example, like if you have something like a very narrow one and then a longer one in Y direction and then shorter one in the X direction, so you have something like a pen. So I clear the screen first. So this is your painting by this paintbrush. And what I would like to do is I try to rotate this paintbrush automatically by using another chop. That's the bit we are familiar with. So I add another chop, that's the bit. I keep the speed of this one and then add a math for the rotation of 360 degrees from here, 0 to 1, 0 to 360. So now we have this rotating number. So what to do with this rotating number is I also make use of the transform. I turn on the wheel active for the rotation number and then drag it to the transform for the rotation. So now your paintbrush is rotating continuously by the bit chop. So the result will be something like this. I clear the screen. You have this kind of rotating paintbrush to do your painting, and it will be a little bit more interesting than the regular rectangle or square or just a circle. So you kind of simulating the different direction of putting your paint onto your canvas. And eventually, if you have the time and patience, you can fill up the whole screen with this one, and that will have your portrait painting done with this particular process. Okay, so this is the end of this exercise, and I hope you enjoy this. Thank you.